Alrighty, guys, we're back for top 10 Aetherdrift cards for aggro players. All right. Quick disclaimer. This is completely opinion based, and I have not played with any of these cards yet. Another disclaimer, I did not include the Verge on this list, so no land made the cut, but I'm sure that a lot of aggro deck lists, especially Boros, are going to appreciate these Verge, huh? Also, look at this. Look at the River Pyre Verge. This one taps for a red at first. Dude, that's exactly what we need for Izzet Spellslingers. That's going to be really cool to have in Standard, huh? All right, enough with the disclaimer. Let's go ahead and get into the list. Number 10, Gas Guzzler. This is a 1 mana, 2/1. It enters tapped, unfortunately. Now it has Start Your Engines. If you have no speed, it starts at 1. It increases once on each of your turns when an opponent loses life, and then the max speed is 4. Now for this card, when you have max speed, you can pay a black mana, sacrifice another creature or vehicle, draw a card. Cool stuff, man. I always make the joke, all it has to be for me to like the card is a 1 mana 2/1. Now we have another 1 mana 2/1 in Standard that enters tapped. I can't remember the name right now, but I don't really see it being played very often. So what this one has going for it, though, is the fact that it starts your engine. So I think there's a real possibility that we could see a max speed Rakdos deck list pop up. So you never know. Like I said, though, with the disclaimer, I haven't played with any of these, so... Also, there's a reason this is way up here at number 10 and not like number 4 or something. It's the weakest card on this list, I would say. That max speed ability, we'll talk more about that in, when we go over another card too. Number 9, Fearless Swashbuckler. 3 mana, 3/3, rock and haste. It's a fish pirate. Cool. Vehicles you control have haste. Okay. Now, whenever you attack, if a pirate and a vehicle attacked this combat, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards. So I don't know how often we'll actually get to pull off that bottom ability, but I bet it happens more than you would expect, right? I love that this gives vehicles haste. That's really cool. Guys, for a lot of these cards, what we'll do is we'll talk about the card, and then I'll bring up a couple cards as some talking points here. So for this one, I have Spyglass Siren and a Burner Rocket. Because one thing when you're looking at the Fearless Swashbuckler, you're probably thinking like, oh, you want to like curve out properly, get your 3-drop down, go into a 4-drop vehicle like Boom Mobile or something, right? But realistically, I don't know about you guys, but I know how to miss my 4th mana and be stuck at 3 for quite some time. So I think realistically, what you're going to be looking at on turn 3 is maybe like a 1 mana card in a 2 mana vehicle. That's what I brought up here with Spyglass Siren. Being a pirate, it fits that theme. 1 mana 1/1 when it enters, create a map token. Maybe that deck list has a bit of like an artifact theme or something, right? Burner Rocket is a 2 mana 3/1, kind of like a little honorable mention. Or how about like a little bonus card that maybe we could have actually put on this list somewhere? So it's a 2 mana 3/1 with Flash. It's a vehicle that crews for 1. When this vehicle enters, target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. It's a little bit of a weaker version of Monstrous Rage, but it is also a vehicle, which is kind of neat, right? So if you are looking at Fearless Swashbuckler on 3 and you're swinging in with haste, or maybe you already curved out with Spyglass Siren, Fearless Swashbuckler on 3 and your turn 2 was the Burner Rocket, for example. If your turn 2 was Burner Rocket, you still had a decent turn 2 swinging in the air with the Siren with the extra +2 damage, right? So anyways, on turn 3, if you're swinging with Swashbuckler and crewing up the Burner Rocket with the Spyglass Siren, swinging in, getting that bottom ability, the draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards, it seems like we want to put that in the deck list with the other pirates that care about us discarding, right? But I don't know. I think it actually belongs in a few different versions of pirates and see what we can land on. All the way up here at number 9, though, because it's a very specific style of build that this has to go into. It's either going to be in pirates or it's going to be in discard. I can't imagine that it would be a lone card in like a vehicle deck list, you know what I mean? So outside of that, there's a reason it's number 9, huh? Number 8, a Kaladin Triumph Caster, a similar concept to the last card. This is a 2 mana 2/3 legendary creature. It's a human pilot. mounts and vehicles you control have haste. Awesome. All of the cards, give all my cards haste all the time. Whenever a mount you control enters, it becomes saddled until end of turn. Okay. Whenever a vehicle you control enters, it becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. Holy cow, dude. There's a lot of options with this card, huh? So a few things, of course, like Boros mounts or Boros vehicles, but also I don't think it's going to be unheard of at all to go triple color. Why not give Ornery Tumblewag some haste, right? That sounds really cool, especially if you've been setting up with counters at the start of the game as well. So Tumblewag here is a 3-mana 2/2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Now, when this attacks while saddled, double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature. Okay, saddle it for 2. So if you are curving out turn 1, turn 2 Triumph Caster, turn 3 Tumblewag, and Tumblewag becomes saddled, and it has haste from the Call It In ability here, you're at the beginning of combat putting that +1/+1 on something. Maybe you put it on Tumblewag, maybe you put it elsewhere. Either way, when you swing in, you get to double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature. So honestly, at that point, if you're setting up with counters on some of your other cards anyways, turn 3 Tumblewag probably wouldn't be the best. Maybe turn 4, turn 5, and you're hastily swinging with the Tumblewag and really giving the boost to something. That seems pretty cool, right? Now, outside of mounts, also works with vehicles, and if you're curving out properly, I have another 3-drop here. Unidentified Hovership is not bad removal, dude. So when it enters, exile up to 1 target creature with toughness 5 or less, and then when this leaves the battlefield, they don't get that card back. The exiled card's owner actually manifests dread. So we haven't seen Unidentified Hovership pop up too much, but I stand by it. I think it's pretty solid removal, and if you are curving out properly, it's not terrible that this auto cruise and can swing in the air for 2 right when it comes down, right after you removed something important from the opponent's side, right? It's a lot of neat things that Call It In can do. I think later on, Call It In might pop up as one of these side cards. I forget right now, though. We'll see, huh? Number 7, Web Strike Elite. Yes. 2 mana, 3/3, rocking double green up there. It has Reach, which is kind of no joke, dude. Reach does a lot. Anyways, it also has cycling for X and double green. So X double green, discard this card, draw a card. When you cycle this card, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment with mana value X. That's really cool, dude. Even if you don't even look at the cycling on this card, just being a 2 mana 3/3 with Reach, it's good enough for me to put it right into some mono green Stompy, right? So the quick comparison here, of course, is going to be Keen-Eyed Curator. It's a 2 mana 3/3. Double green up there, as long as there are 4 or more card types. Among cards exiled with Keen-Eyed Curator, gets +4/+4 in Trample. That's pretty good because it's easy to exile stuff for just 1 mana exile target card from a graveyard. So why not both, right? Mono green Stompy, all 4 elites, all 4 Keen-Eyed Curators. Let's go. Let's do it, huh? Outside of that, right. Is the better card Web Strike Elite? I'm pretty sure because that Reach, right? Reach blocks so many different things. Like, I can't think of anything right now. Funny enough, right? Oh, like Pixie deck list, right? They know how to fly in the air. There's definitely some other flying things that I'm just blanking on right now. I just feel like Reach is relatively important. So I think Web Strike Elite is a little better because also there's going to be some moments where maybe you cycle this X's 3 and pop a Caretaker's Talent or something important. Like there's a lot of important artifacts and enchantments that you would not mind hitting with this. So that is a lot of mana to cycle out, but also X can totally be 0, right? You could just go double green, discard this card, draw a card, which is still kind of good. Maybe you're looking for your top end or something, or a way to end the game, and Elite is not the one ending the game at that moment. I don't know, man. Pretty cool card. Enough talking about it, though, because it's also a pretty simple card. Number 6, a Bloodghast. 2 mana, 2/1. Apparently, this is a reprint. Cool. It's a vampire spirit. It can't block, unfortunately. But that's probably a good thing because the rest of this card is ridiculous. This creature has haste as long as an opponent has 10 or less life. Since we're aggro players, that's the default state of the opponent. So that's good news, right? Landfall. When a land you control enters, you may return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, I keep reading that, expecting there to be more. Like, oh, you gotta like spend the mana to bring it back or something too. But no, just when it enters, you just return this to the battlefield from the grave. Dude, what on earth? So mono black aggro, of course. Double black in the casting cost. But also something I didn't bring up with the last card too, with the Web Strike Elite. Mana fixing is pretty decent in general. Like, would Web Strike Elite make the cut in something like Golgari aggro? Maybe. What about Gruul aggro? Again, got a lot of great dual lands. It very well might make the cut, and this is going to be a similar concept for the Bloodghast too. Maybe like Rakdos aggro could see the Bloodghast. There's a lot of Rakdos things that we wouldn't mind sending to the grave with the Bloodghast as well. Here's some talking points here, guys. Gas Guzzler, we just talked about this, number 10. The bottom ability on the Gas Guzzler, if we're going mono black aggro anyways, eventually if we do reach the max speed, which shouldn't be too hard in mono black aggro, there's a lot of great ways to get damage through every turn. A lot of times, if you're going an aggro deck list that already isn't established, like mono red or something, right? Then the game is going to go on past turn 4 anyways, so shouldn't be unheard of to actually reach that max speed. Anyways, with that bottom ability for 1 black, sacrifice another creature or vehicle, draw a card. Dude, it's kind of crazy to think that you can sacrifice the Bloodghast and then play a land. Well, you're paying the 1, sacrifice the Bloodghast, you're drawing a card, then play a land, bring back the Bloodghast. That just seems super disgusting, because then you could totally do it again on the opponent's turn as well to evade something like a Sunfall. That seems really cool. And then on your turn, passes back, you drop another land, the Bloodghast comes back, and then what if you have multiple Bloodghast in the grave? Holy cow, dude. And the more I'm talking about this, maybe I should have bumped it up the list a little bit. And also, it doesn't have to be sacrificing. Liliana the Veil over here is the other talking point. In and of itself, not a very aggressive card, but if we're just looking at this curve, turn 1 Gas Guzzler, turn 2 Bloodghast, turn 3 Liliana the Veil, we're not mad about that curve at all. But realistically, Liliana's in here as the talking point because of the discard. So like Bitter Triumph also could have been a talking point card here too. Discarding the Bloodghast is going to be terrific in general. So, and discarding multiple Bloodghast is going to be pretty darn good too, right? So I don't know, man. I'm excited to try this one out. Number 5. Speaking of excited to try this one out, Howl Squad Heavy, dude. This should be number 1. However, it's not number 1 because it has to be a very specific deck list. It has to be goblins. I can't imagine this outside of goblins, right? Can you guys think of anything? It's a 3-mana, 2/3 goblin mercenary. It has start your engines. Okay. Other goblins you control have haste. Beautiful. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. That token attacks this combat if able, and then once you reach max speed, which is only a matter of time, you can tap this, add a red mana for each goblin you control. Oh, buddy. If you guys want to see me talk more about Howl Squad Heavy, I'll try to remember to put a link in the description to 5 mono red deck lists for Aetherdrift. And there's a goblin deck list there. And I talk about Howl Squad Heavy, of course, in that deck list. And it's going to pair beautifully with top-end Krinko. It's going to pair beautifully with goblins in general, isn't it? Dude, I really like this card, but I'm not going to talk about it too much here. Like I said, I hope I remember to put the link in the description to 5 different mono red deck lists. So if you guys want more Howl Squad Heavy, check out that video, I suppose. Number 4, Diversion Unit. This is a 2-mana 2/1. And this is my call to all my fellow aggro players. If you haven't played Tempo before, try Tempo. I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy it, because what Tempo does well is it still does aggro pretty well, but it also knows how to deal with important things that the opponents are doing, like Sunfall, for example. Diversion Unit, 2-mana 2/1 artifact creature. It has flying. Okay. You can pay 1 blue mana, sacrifice this creature. Counter target instant or sorcery spell, unless its controller pays 3. So, a few things, right? This probably goes into some artifact aggro decks, I would say. And at that point, we're starting to lean it towards artifact tempo. Spell Pierce, I believe, is getting reprinted in this set, so tempo is going to have that piece too. I think Spell Pierce is probably going to be relatively important in certain tempo deck lists. I could see it going right alongside a diversion unit to help us prepare for the opponent's board wipes, or pretty much anything at that point too. Just a really good piece of spot removal on a bigger creature or something, right? Being an artifact creature means it doesn't get hit by Go for the Throat. That's pretty significant. Honestly, seeing all the artifact creatures in this set makes me wonder how much Go for the Throat is actually going to see play. We'll see, though. We'll see. Oh, guys, we have some talking point cards here with the diversion unit. The first comparison to think about is Malevolent Hermit, which is no longer in Standard. I really liked Malevolent Hermit. It was a rare, however, and it didn't see too much play. I don't know if it saw any play, but I know we played with it on the channel. For the 1 blue, you sacrifice it, and this actually reads counter target non-creature spell, unless its controller pays 3. So Diversion Unit is a little bit of a weaker ability. It's instant and sorceries, but that's still fine. What Malevolent Hermit doesn't have going for it is it's not an artifact creature, so it doesn't fit into those artifact builds, which I think is going to be relatively important. But then also Malevolent Hermit doesn't have flying until you actually cast it for the disturb cost. On the back side of the Hermit, it was a 2/2. It had flying. It had another ability too, but we're not going to go over it right now. Hermit was decent, man, when I played with it. I think Diversion Unit in the right build is going to be equally as decent, if not better, because of the fact that it's an artifact creature. So we have another talking point card here. Memory Guardian. Honestly, should be on this list, but I didn't want any crossovers with my other list. So speaking of putting videos in the description, I'll put the link to the other list for budget players down in the description as well. Memory Guardian made that list. Spoiler alert, I suppose. So 5 mana, 3/4. Affinity for artifacts. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. Okay, it has flying. Dude, it's going to be so easy to get this down to just like 2 mana. And then sometimes it's going to be so easy to get this down just to 1 mana. 1 mana, 3/4 flying. Can't get picked up by Cut Down. Can't get picked up by Go for the Throat. Lightning Strike. This card's scary, dude. And the only reason it's not in the place of Diversion Unit right now at number 4 or higher up on the list too is because, like I said, I didn't want any crossovers with my other list. So yeah. Speaking of artifact deck lists, dude, I also love that Diversion Unit is much more budget friendly than the Hermit was as well. So I'll be playing with this for sure. It's going to make the cut as a 4 of in some of my artifact builds just to see what happens, or until I'm proven wrong, right? So, all right, number 3, Bulwark Ox. This is a 2 mana, 2/2. When this creature attacks while saddled, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Okay, you can saddle this for just 1. Awesome. Sacrifice this creature. Creatures you control with counters on them gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Cool stuff, man. This is going to be all too easy. So first of all, it doesn't say put a +1/+1 counter on another creature, so you can totally start boosting the Bulwark Bulwark Ox. Oh my goodness, that's hard to say for some reason. Anyways, the little ox buddy here, you can totally start boosting it right away. Get it up to a 3/3, get it up to a 4/4. You probably don't want to do that. You probably want to distribute those +1/+1 counters on your other creatures. That way you can successfully utilize that middle ability where you can sacrifice this and protect those other creatures. Hexproof Indestructible is pretty darn good, I would say. So overall, the main reason this made the list is actually that middle ability, but it's just also, wait a minute, do I have talking point cards here? I do have some talking point cards. Okay. There's a lot of things that this could fit into as well. So Call It In, Triumph Caster. Yeah, there's Call It In again. Okay, this is totally a mount, and it's a pretty good mount to go ahead and give haste to and swing in, put those +1/+1 counters on things. And then, hey, that also fits the Tumblewag deck list too. So if we do end up going Naya colors here, that seems pretty good. It fits that +1/+1 counter theme. I don't know, man. It seems like a pretty aggressive card. And do you guys think it deserves the number 3 spot? Let me know. A Warden of the Inner Sky is another deck list that the Bulwark could fit into well, like any 1-mana cards that also know how to get counters and whatnot, or utilize the extra counters from the Bulwark. So Warden has, as long as it has 3 or more counters on it, it has Flying and Vigilance. So like having Bulwark put extra counters onto the Warden seems decent, right? Then you can tap 3 untapped artifacts and or creatures you control. You put a +1/+1 counter on Warden of the Inner Sky. You can scry 1, activate only as a sorcery. Wanted to read that just to make sure, because we saw a lot of Warden of the Inner Sky in the past, but we haven't seen it as much recently. So yeah, I think like a Warden of the Inner Sky deck list with Bulwark could be cool, or just a Mount deck list, or just like mono white aggro in general probably would not hate to have this little Ox Buddy in the deck, right? I'm pretty sure like it doesn't have to be a build around to be a decent card here, but maybe I'm wrong, huh? Number 2, Burnout Bastronaut. Yes, 1 mana 1/1 with Menace. Start your engines. Max speed ability. This creature has double strike, and then for 2, this creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Dude, I think this card is stacked. So number 1, you don't have to have other cards in your deck list that have start your engines. It would be, I guess, preferable. But even if you just see 1 Burnout Bastronaut and the opponent kills it, you still are going to get your engines rolling, right? So when you see your future Burnout Bastronauts and stuff, eventually they'll have double strike because you're an aggro player. You're doing damage to the opponent every turn anyways. We do have some talking point cards for the Burnout Bastronaut here. Monstrous Rage, of course, dude. Stacking Monstrous Rage or any ability that boosts and give trample as well is going to be terrific with the Burnout Bastronaut once it has max speed. Menace, double strike, giving it trample plus a boost just seems disgusting, huh? But then also, what if you're missing the boost? Well, then it also just has that ability to boost itself anyways, which just seems crazy, man. I don't know, dude. The big problem is, what if you're missing the max speed? And does something like mono red aggro, does it really want to go on for that long to actually have the game reach max speed? Well, no, but sometimes the game goes on for that long anyway. So at the very least, we're having cards that are benefiting from the game going on that long. Then at that point too, maybe that helps you win the game. Double strike is just kind of no joke. And then outside of deck lists like that, we also just have the max speed deck lists. So cards like Godseeker here, or Hazoret Godseeker, it's a 2 mana 5/3. This is kind of sort of like a little bonus card, huh? Has Indestructible and Haste. Has Start Your Engines. You can pay 1, tap this. Target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. So that's already pretty good. That also pairs beautifully with the Bastronaut anyways. But also the opponent's still kind of having trouble blocking this with the Menace regardless, because when you are playing red and you do have Menace and you have open mana, the opponent's pretty sketched out to actually block into that. It's really hard to block mono red anyways. I keep bringing up mono red, by the way. It doesn't just have to be mono red. I think Burnout Bastronaut could appear in other deck lists too, especially max speed, so like Rakdos or something. Burnout Bastronaut could actually make the cut. Goblins, it's a goblin warrior, guys. So goblins, does it want this? I don't know, but I'm going to try all 4 in goblins anyways, just to see what happens. I feel like it wants it, but we'll see. Oh, and then of course our number 5 too also has the whole max speed ability, so that's another goblin as well. Anyways, guys, I'm getting off topic here. Hazoret also has the bottom ability where it can't attack or block unless you have max speed. So preferably, of course, we want to get the max speed. At that point, any additional Hazorets, or if we got max speed already from the Bastronaut's ability, any Hazorets in hand is a 5/3 indestructible haste that's swinging in. Seems pretty decent, huh? All right, number 1. You guys aren't prepared for this. No one's prepared for my number 1. If you guys didn't already guess in the comments, guess now in the comments. And I'm very curious to see if anyone actually gets this. All right, here we go. Number 1, Sundial Dawn Tyrant. It's a 2 mana, 3/3 legendary artifact creature. Let's take a moment here to read the ability. Okay. That's it, dude. That's it. I don't know. Is it a janky pick? I don't know. Honestly, here's what made me choose this as the number one card. Number one, it's pretty budget friendly. It's just an uncommon, which is actually pretty cool, right? But here's why. Any aggro deck list that I play that has white in it is going to, at the very least, have one of these until I'm proven wrong. Until I am proven that this is a janky card. So it's an artifact creature. Doesn't get hit by Go for the Throat. Again, I don't know how much Go for the Throat sees play with all the awesome artifact creatures in this set. We'll see, won't we? We'll see how many of them actually become standout cards that Mono Black or something has to care about, because they might just switch it up. Bitter Triumph. There's a lot of other really great removal that they could be playing too. So, but guys, it's a 2-mana card that doesn't get hit by Cut Down. Oh, okay. Uh-oh, Mono Black. Sundial's on its way. Doesn't get hit by cards like Burst Lightning or Shock, right? It does get hit by Lightning Strike, but it's a 2-mana card for a 2-mana card at that point. Being an artifact, it's going to fit into all those different artifact themes, of course. I really feel like Azorius artifacts could be quite aggressive. And does Azorius artifacts want 2 to 3 of these? Maybe. I think so. Like I said, I'm going to be playing at least 1 to 3 of these in every single deck list that is, every single aggro deck list, I should say, that is playing white. So even if it's not rocking artifacts, right? Does something like Selesnya aggro want a 2-mana 3/3? Probably. I think Selesnya aggro would want like 2 of these maybe, right? I think the big thing here that's confusing me is it doesn't have an ability. So it's like, it's janky, right? It can't be good. But then everything, like I wanted this to be number 1 so bad, and here it is, it's at number 1. Again, it's just going to go into every single aggro deck list that's playing white until I'm proven wrong, until it's proven that this is actually a janky pick. Let me know in the comments, were you expecting this? I kind of feel like, I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea if this is even a controversial pick anyways. Maybe everyone's like nodding their head like, yep, I agree. I have no idea what people think about this card, but I'm looking at it like, no ability. People are probably thinking it's jank. I think it might be janky, but I don't know. I need to play with it. I need to see what happens with it on the board. I just think that it has significant stats. It has the fact that it's an artifact is so good, man. Speaking of Selesnya artifacts, Bant artifacts, it's a legendary creature too. So what could we do with legends? I don't know. There might be a cool aggressive thing that we can do with legends. I don't know, man. I know one thing though. I'm probably talking too much about a Sundial Dawn Tyrant here. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of this style of video? Definitely let me know if you enjoyed it. Let me know if you didn't enjoy it too. Do you agree with my list? What cards should have made the cut? What cards should have been honorable mentions or something? Because I kind of skipped the honorable mentions except for going over the Verge at the beginning, right? Also, guys, make sure you check out that description where we do have that Discord link as well as that Patreon link too. Did I go over this in the middle of the video? Well, either way, if you liked the video, make sure you actually drop it a like. If you enjoy the channel, then consider subscribing as well. It really does help out the channel, guys. All right, I think that's everything. Either way, I will see you in the next video.